Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining me on Behind the Build. I'm Paul Drake, and this podcast is all about getting real insights from leaders in housing, manufacturing, and construction. There's no scripts, there's no sugarcoating. Great exposure for you and your organization. So, here's how I'd like to structure our conversation today. I want to understand your background, trends you're seeing in the industry, whether that's through technology, market shifts, or operational changes, any challenges that you're facing right now, and where you might want to take the organization over the next 6 to 12 months. We'll wrap up at the end with any insights that we might find valuable. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good.
Excellent. It'll probably take about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the length of your answers, Jim. And we're going to start with a bit about you, if you wouldn't mind. Tell me your role and how did you end up in this position, please?
I've been in community development for more than 40 years. I've worked in nonprofits, local government, and community development banking with major banks, and then with community development financial institutions, which over here we call CDFIs. It's a federally designated, a federal designation for mostly nonprofit lending institutions. I am currently acting CEO and president of Century Housing. Century is a very large CDFI. We did 450 million of affordable housing lending, and we only cover California last year. But Century is more than that. Century is also a developer, and has, at this point, I think we've got somewhere a little over 2,000 units. And we are also a service provider. A lot of our units are focused on veterans, and on folks coming out of homelessness. So we have a very strong service provision organization. And we also partner with a lot of service providers. Part of that focus is because we, 25 years ago, were granted 27 acres of a former U.S. naval station,
Right.
and the base where the base housing was. And when that happens, when our federal government does that, much of your focus has to be on veterans and homeless veterans. So that's where our service focus comes from. That I mean, it's extraordinary resource, 27 acres anywhere in California, but especially in a place like Los Angeles. And the housing there, some of it is fairly new. Since we've had the site for close to 25 years, some of it's getting close, 15 years old or thereabouts. And then some of the original base housing was rehabbed, and that is typically master leased to service providers who bring their own clients onto the campus. And that's called Century Villages at Cabrillo. I think it's an incredible resource for the Southern California community, um, and the build out there. So the eventual plan is to take down all of the old housing and replace it with new, but that's going to take another 10 years. So it's going to keep our development staff busy for a while there. But our development staff is also looks at opportunities in other parts of Southern California. We're focused more on the greater Los Angeles area right now. So um, they have a lot of projects going. We've got a lot of long master planned projects, but we're also looking at an acquisition strategy where we can buy and preserve affordable housing. I think one of the nice things about being at Century is that our development team, our development arm, has access to ready capital through our lending arm.
Mm.
There are limits on how much a lender can lend to a related party, but we're nowhere near those limits. So I think another unique thing about Century is that it is the highest rate. It has a S&P rating and a Fitch rating. We're AA rated by S&P. We are the highest rated nonprofit affordable housing entity in the country. Um, One of my sort of career goals has always been to get more capital into affordable housing, and the way to really do that is to get into the public markets. So one of my previous jobs at a CDFI, we became the first CDFI to be rated by S&P, and that CDFI is still going strong. And then my job before Century, from which I retired in December of 2024, I'm taking a long path here to get to why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
No, I'm enjoying it. Keep going.
But anyway, in my previous job with Bridge Housing, Bridge is the largest nonprofit developer based on the West Coast. Bridge was the first nonprofit developer to get an S&P rating, and I don't take credit for getting the S&P rating because they did that before I got there while I was working on ratings at my CDFI. But I do take credit for helping lead Bridge into the capital markets and becoming the first nonprofit developer in the United States, the first social housing provider in the United States to issue a general obligation bond. It was $100 million back in 2020 when the rates were really nice and low. So we should have done 200 million back then. But anyway, we did 100 million. Bridge actually just recently had its second issuance, 175 million, into the public capital markets. Those funds have been used and will be used in a lot of ways. They're used for pre-development expenses. They've been used a lot for Bridge's acquisition strategy. It gives Bridge it gives Bridge the financial capital to compete with the really big pocket uh, entities that have been chasing affordable housing deals, and Blackstone and others have been putting their really big toe, because it's a very big, deep pocket they have, but into the affordable housing world. So if you're a seller and Blackstone comes and Bridge comes, yeah, you're gonna be likely to go with Blackstone unless Bridge can show that it has the capital to act as quickly and as profitably to the seller as a Blackstone. So Bridge has been pretty successful with that. The challenges. So getting back to where I am now. I retired from Bridge in December. I joined the Century board in February, and there's been some there's been some retirements and some change at the top, and I actually became their interim CFO in May of 2025, and then that role became interim CEO in June of 2025. So here I am. That's how I got here. It was a very rapid escalation. Given that I have executive experience at both a nonprofit developer and at a CDFI, I actually fit the job here pretty well. We are doing an extensive search for the next CEO, though, because although I like what I'm doing, we've got a great team. I like leading them, and I'm having some fun. I retired because after 40 years in community development, I didn't really want to work anymore. Right now, I'm 100% committed to Century and will stay here. And I will remain on the board. I am still on the board. We actually changed the bylaws so I could be on the board and be CEO. But I will stay here and help with the transition to a new CEO. I imagine I'll be here at least through first quarter of 2026. And when I retire, I will I will be happy to be on the board and not be CEO anymore, but there are definitely things I'm going to miss. So,
It's a long time, 40 years. Is there a typical day in your life, Jim, currently? What does it look like, if there is?
well, the a big healthy organization like Century can go through turmoil or change at the top just like any other big corporation. You see a CEO. I was at Bank of America for a while, long time, and that had some pretty drastic change at the top. Bank of America's fine because what really matters, and I'm not Century. Yeah, Century is one. What are we? We're Bank of America somewhere around $1 trillion, and we're somewhere around $1 billion. So, um, but we're strong, we're healthy, and that's because of the people who do their jobs every day on the lending side, the development side, and the services side. Change at the top is not really going to threaten that. Um, so I think so my typical day, well, on Monday I have check-ins with my senior staff, for example. So that was yesterday. Um, and I give advice where needed. I answer questions as needed, things like that. What else? Every week, though, there's always, eh, the big part of, I think, the big headache of being a CEO is the HR
Yeah,
or the human resources, or I don't remember what you call it in the UK, but
same.
yeah. So, and every week there's typically something that comes up in HR that is a surprise or not unexpected or a minor crisis to deal with. Um, but when you're CEO, so I've been in the C-suite, but it's always been focused on the things that I want to do, whether I was chief lending officer at a CDFI or whether I was chief investment officer at a developer. And when I say chief investment officer, I shorten that, or I explain that as saying I brought in the money and the CFO counted it. It wasn't chief investment officer in the terms of we took our money and put it out in investments. I was responsible for bringing in the capital, whether it was enterprise level or project level. So those were things I liked to do. With CEO, you've got to cover an awful lot of territory. Um, I know how to deal with developers. I know how to deal with lenders. Working with a company full of social workers is a learning experience for me. There's different communication styles, different concerns, different issues come up, and it puts me closer to property management, and that's never been a fun part of development in my perspective. It takes a very, I think, a very specific personality to enjoy property management, and I love the folks who do it, but it's not something I want to do a lot of. And then there's things like just the corporates. My first week here, right? I approved the budget to repave our parking lot. I mean, you know, I never had to deal with those kinds of things, but but I'm also really excited for the future of Century because it is so strong, it can grow. Our lending arm can keep growing, keep lending more, and our development arm has a has a lot of room for growth. And one of the things I'm really excited about, what I've started here, we own our own office building, which is really unusual for nonprofit here in the U.S. anyway.
Mm.
And we're the area we're in, we're just a 2-story office building. The building next door is somewhere around 10 stories, and the buildings going up the street are all 8 to 10 story, mostly office buildings right now. But the area was rezoned recently to allow mixed use development. And so we're going to tear down our 2 story office building and put up probably 6 to 8 floors of new office and then housing on affordable housing on top.
Nice.
I'm really excited about that one because I got here and said, we own this land. Let's build on it. So um, that's an initiative that I'm having a lot of fun with.
Yeah, sounds exciting. Um, so are you seeing any trends in the industry right now? I know there's essentially three entities within the organization, but are you seeing any trends in technology or operational efficiencies that you've not seen before?
I am I'm a firm believer in the potential of factory built housing. I know that in Scandinavia, for example, I can't remember the number offhand, but it's something like 65, 70% of the housing in Scandinavia is factory built. And I know they use it quite successfully in Asia. They're quite successful with it. So I am a firm believer in its potential. But I think in the US, I believe it's still under 3% of housing built in the US. It may even be under 1%. But anyway, it's a very small percentage. And I've seen lots of startup factory housing entities go bankrupt, including ones with great big great big financial backers. Excuse me. And I've talked to a lot of them. I remember one that I was really pretty excited about, and they were kind of touring California, showing off what they were doing. And I asked, "Great, what if I had a project now? How many units could you deliver?" They said, "Well, we could do 100 this year."
Hmm.
But even the big factories here, I mean, I think they're getting better, but even the big factories here could do 1,000 a year. If they brought in a double shift, they could do 2,000 a year. That's when just California is short probably 4 to 5 million units. It's nothing,
Hmm.
and we haven't actually seen the cost savings either. I've been through 3 projects where and I know of lots of others, but I've been through 3 projects where the factory went bankrupt during the middle of the process.
Well,
And then somebody else comes in, takes it over, delivers the units, but the units are substandard and have a lot of problems that have to be fixed on site. I've been through at least 2 projects where the units were delivered, they were set in place. A really big rainstorm comes through, big for California, and they're not sealed up adequately before the storm comes through. They get wet, and you got to send people in and rip out drywall from modules that were delivered from the factory complete. But you got to rip out the drywall to get rid of the moisture and to redo some of the stuff that got damaged in the storms. And I'm thinking, wait, why is that a problem? It's like, do our contractors really not know how to uh, preserve buildings during storms? Because there's a lot of places with a whole lot worse weather than California where construction happens successfully without water damage. But in terms of other things, I think there's an awful lot of software out there that's that is purports to help.
well,
Some of it's better than others. We have some very creative young folks in my on my development team, and some they've started some little programming jobs in AI. Actually, one of the things they did was use Chat GPT to skim skim state regulations around allocations of the allocation of bond authority, and which probably makes no sense to anyone who's not in California or the U.S. But I'm not going to go into too much depth there to explain it. But uh, and he reality checked it. I mean, he didn't just let Chat GPT go at it, and he set up parameters for it. So he made sure Chat GPT was citing actual source material and not just making up crap when he asked it a question about the regulations. And it's a pretty nifty little thing, and it will certainly save time for folks who would otherwise have to comb through their regulations themselves. So that's a little thing.
Mm.
What else is going on? We are trying to. One of the problems I see is that you have uh, software that your accounting staff uses to keep the books,
Mhm.
and then you have software that your property management staff uses to keep track of rents and rent payments and things like that. And they don't necessarily talk.
Yeah.
They don't mesh very well. Stuff like that needs to be improved. I can't, and we keep looking at ways to try to get those things to work better together. So, there are little improvements I'd like to see on the software side. There are some big macro improvements I'd like to see on the construction side. And certainly part of that is construction costs. You talked about challenges we're facing. Construction costs just have gone up and up and up. I mean, the increase has slowed a little bit, but right now what we're seeing, and ideally this is a temporary thing, but certainly in California, and I would imagine in a lot of the country, um, laborers are disappearing because of the immigration
Mm.
enforcement stuff that's going on. Laborers and not just laborers, but skilled construction workers at all levels are disappearing. So we're having a labor shortage. We're having an exacerbated labor shortage. So after the big recession, a whole lot of people left the construction industry. A whole lot of I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's a huge number, huge amount of people left the construction industry because construction dried up for a number of years and they had to go find other jobs. And they didn't come back. So when the economy started picking up again and construction started picking up again, say 2010, 2011, construction costs started climbing very steeply because of the shortage of labor. And now we're seeing labor shortages again, seeing costs, and we're seeing costs, tariffs having an impact on costs too. So costs are increasing because of that. Um, what else are we facing? So in California and in much of the country, when you put together an affordable housing deal, you've really got three legs. You've got private capital in the term, in you've got private loans, construction loans, permanent mortgages. You've got low income housing tax credits, which are bought by large corporate investors, mostly banks. But and then because if it costs you, I mean, this is going to sound crazy if you're not on top of the costs here, but San Francisco, the average cost of an affordable housing unit is approaching $1 million per unit, which is just crazy. So um, the rent you charge for one of those $1 million units in no way supports that cost. So you have to get a big chunk of basically free money from the government, so you get local or state money to subsidize that cost, really. so that you can get a mortgage that is supportable by the lower rents that you charge. So right now there is the say 10 years ago, a lot of local governments here in California passed some housing subsidy measures, but a lot of that money has run out. A lot of that money ran out at the state level too. So there's a new state funding on the ballot next year, so that'll help. Um, so construction costs are up. The amount of government subsidy available is down. Um, what else?
Labour shortage.
Yeah, yeah. And so okay, so I'll get a little into explaining tax exempt funding. So tax exempt funding here gets allocated to affordable housing projects, and there is a limit that each state can issue. Um, in California, that has been competitive for for many years now, and so not every affordable housing project can go in and get the tax exempt financing it needs, which means there's a big backlog of projects that either go dead or just have to hang on. You have to hang on, um, causing the developer to have carrying costs for any number of years before they can actually put together the whole full financing stack. So that's been a problem. Um, so I think the industry is so the industry is facing many challenges right now, um, and the of course if we can bring down costs, then we'll need less subsidy dollars and we can stretch those out farther and do more projects. But until that starts happening, the amount of subsidy needed per unit is just keeps growing, and which of course then of course shrinks the pot. So yeah, we're kind of in a no win right now, and it is very challenging to build new. Which is why a lot of developers are also increasing their acquisition activity. And one of the other initiatives we're trying to do here is increase our acquisition activity, either buying projects that are already affordable without restrictions, and then we put affordability restrictions, regulations on them, in order to take advantage of some of the financing that's available to us as a nonprofit. But but there are also a lot of projects that are coming to the end of their initial regulatory periods, and so there's a lot of nonprofits trying to buy those projects and extend their affordability.
Right. A lot of challenges, it would seem. Jim, any opportunities that you're seeing?
Well, the acquisition strategy is an opportunity. Um, yeah, no, there are no easy opportunities. Um, there are sort of one-offs at times. There is every now and then local government or the state has a surplus land that they put out. The law mandates that the first choice for those go to affordable housing. So that's a little opportunity. What's an opportunity that rates are coming down? That's going to help, help at the margins in terms of helping reduce carrying costs or helping it reduce construction costs. Um, the long-term rates are coming down. I think in general, the public attitude has shifted in the last 10 to 15 years, far more pro housing now. That certainly helps. One example, city of Berkeley used to be really resistant to affordable housing, but over the last 10 years, that's changed. They've actually become a very strong supporter of affordable housing development throughout the city. And by the attitudes changed, I mean particularly with the local officials who get to approve the projects. One of the things here in is California specific too, is that the state has passed um, because of the resistance of local government to affordable housing. The state passed a lot of laws in the last few years that have mandated that affordable housing projects that meet the current zoning, that they have to be approved. You can't hold them up uh, for what used to be just really spurious reasons that local officials would find to resist the building of affordable housing. And that's really what's caused the shortage over the last 40 years, is local government officials not having, either not wanting it or just not having the guts to do the right thing and approve more housing to match the growth of to match the population growth and the jobs growth.
This next question might not be applicable to you because you're retiring again in the next first quarter of 26. Where's the organisation going over the next 6 to 12 months? Where's the ambition? What's the plan?
Well, I'll still be on the board. So, but ideally, what I'm putting in place in terms of redeveloping our office, um, and in terms of an acquisition strategy to get out there and do more. And on the lending side, we're really trying to find ways to support uh, builders and developers who are working outside of the established low income housing tax credit system. The low income housing tax credits were approved in 86. The first projects were done in 87. And it's been an incredibly, actually, some of the first projects may even have been done in late 86. But anyway, it's been an incredible resource, an incredibly important resource for affordable housing development, but it has its limits, and its limits are being tested right now and have been for a few years. And being able to do, you just can't depend on low income housing tax credits to help you meet all the housing need in the state or in the country. So what we're really trying to do, and this is both actually a development initiative and one for our lending team, is to support developers who are figuring out how to do affordable housing without low income housing tax credits, because that's the only way everybody's figured out how to do affordable housing with low income housing tax credits, but if that's the only way you do it, it's not gonna put a dent in the need for affordable housing. So let's find a way to do more of it, more affordable housing, and that way includes, or that being able to do more affordable housing necessitates finding a way to do it outside of the low income housing tax credit system.
Nice. And of those objectives, then you mentioned rebuilding the office is probably the most exciting. From a personal perspective, what would it mean to you to achieve that? And make the assumption that you're going to achieve it, of course, but what does it mean to you? What would it mean to you?
It's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't think I ascribe a lot of meaning to my goals. I have a goal. I want to get it done.
Yeah,
Getting it done is the meaning in itself.
yeah, excellent.
So,
Yeah, that's the best answer I've had to that question so far, Jim. So thank you for that. So we're coming to the end of the podcast. It's been absolutely fascinating sitting here listening to you, Jim, speak so candidly and openly and so in depth about your organisation and the things you've done over the years. And yeah, from my perspective, I had no idea how it worked in California and the challenges as well. There's tons of them and not many opportunities, it would seem. So thanks for taking some time out your busy morning to talk to me. I've really enjoyed it and hope you have too, Jim. So thanks again.
I never object to a opportunity to uh, an opportunity to talk about this stuff. So it's, ideally it helps some people figure out how to, ideally it helps motivate people, keep people motivated to keep producing the housing and find better ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, really, what you're doing is really good. Yeah.
I mean, we're never going to solve the housing crisis here in California, but every unit we can produce helps somebody, and that's a good thing.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Paul.